I'm joined by Michael Carney to discuss the future of the NASL. He has his own blog called The Lady Victory and Her Quest to Glory. How are you tonight, Michael?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I'm so happy to have you on to talk about the NASL. I'm a bit concerned. I'm a bit nervous about the future of the league. Uh, According to Bill Peterson, but before we get there was supposed to be a Board of Governors meeting, right? There was not a Board of Governors meeting. There was a summit with the owners. And then Bill Peterson, and this was from Sports Illustrated, Bill Peterson said that the discussions were both positive and productive, and many of the agenda items were largely focused on the league's long-term vision. At least they got together around a table and spoke about the future, right? Or
Right. I mean, the thing that I got out of it was they said what they were supposed to say in a very PR, public relations way.
Mhm.
I mean, they're not going to come out and say it was just absolutely horrible or horrifying. They're going to say as much positive things that came out of it as much as possible without giving too many details into what actually happened. What I thought was the caveat of the whole ordeal was that they brought in a lot of people and a lot of leadership from Silicon Valley, which of course has major connections with the San Francisco Deltas that are going to be coming into the league next year. I thought that was the real key point that they made, that they brought in these people with leadership skills and things that they can hit home that really the MLS and USL have really failed to do in those terms. And what I mean by that is if they bring in Silicon Valley, they can enhance the stats that they already have and bring in technology and leadership skills and styles and different ways of recruiting and getting
Mhm.
in talent within the league and having a more stable league in more of a, I guess, millennial 21st century point of view from economics and branding and marketing and so on and so forth. So that was like the big caveat that I took away, or the big main point that I took away from it was, because I thought the rest of it, Bill Peterson just, simply gave us what we wanted to hear because that's what that's what the league was going to say in the first place anyway, in my opinion.
Mhm. Do you think there was negative things going on in these conversations? Maybe some teams that just didn't want to be there anymore within the league.
I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, I can only speculate, and we could only speculate and
Yeah.
say. I don't know. Yeah, probably. I'm sure there was disagreements on things or so on and so forth. But I mean, because at the end of the day, every club is looking out for the best interest of themselves.
And I think
Um,
that's the problem with the league is that we're not all working together. It's more of the Rowdies want to stay around, the Cosmos want to try to stay around for a long time. You know what I mean? It's not like everyone's
right.
coming together and saying we're going to be the strongest league for 50 more years and then we're going to just become a massive tradition in American soccer.
Right, but at the same time, I think they're trying to go away from the traditional American sports leagues where, or for example, MLS, where they're all basically central and focused around
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
league. Same thing with the NFL, even though, teams pay their players individually, not like the MLS, where the league really pays for their players. But I mean, they're, you know what I mean, that
Yeah,
everybody's
yeah.
looking out for
Mhm.
themselves first and foremost
But what I
and
was trying
doing
to
what they
say
need
was
to do
that
before the league.
No, but what I was trying to say was that I believe that we can still be an open league and still work together. You know what I mean? Like all the
Right. Yeah.
owners be on the same page.
Right. And I think that's what was a big takeaway from the meeting as well, the summit, I should say, in bringing in the different styles of leadership that have worked with places like Apple and Google
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth, kind of the leading edge of technology and economics and really brand names that have worked for really quite a while now, and why they've been so successful and why can't the NASL be successful.
It feels like the Deltas, once they joined the league, it feels like they just made the league like more professional. You know what I mean? Like they helped verify all the teams on Twitter and on social media, and they have a lot more connections in the tech world in California. So that's a great
Yeah,
team to
and
have in the league.
you bring up a good point, and that is that every team brings in their own, I guess, brand and their own style to the league. And obviously, I don't think the NASL would have survived this long if it wasn't for the New York Cosmos having that brand name that everybody can recognize. I don't think that the TV deals and the media deals would have gotten done if it wasn't for Miami FC. And the same thing with the Deltas bringing in Silicon Valley people in. I mean, every team brings in their own different style. We can go on the list of what every team has brought, but
Yeah.
so yeah, that is a really good point.
But still talking about the owners trying to bring everything to the table, you have a very strong owner in Bill Edwards. And then you think he's a strong owner. He pours a lot of money into his team, and he cares about the league. Like he spoke about the refs. They even made a video that they called a mixtape. He got fined for it and things like that. But he's a
Right.
cool owner to have around. But then you hear, and I don't know how true it is, that the Rowdies might want to join USL, probably because they don't know how certain the NASL's future is. But wouldn't you think an owner like that, we really need to have him around for the future?
Yeah, you really do. You want owners that are hands-on. You want owners that are visible and make comments and, headline press, so to speak, or make that quote that other leagues cringe about and makes the league fine you for, or mixtapes as the example of the Tampa Bay Rowdies. But
Yeah.
it makes the fans and the people within the organization really believe in the product that you're putting out on the field and in the community. I mean, everybody has to have, I think, one of those owners to really make that team or that league unique. You look at baseball. You have the Yankees and George Steinbrenner when he was around. The NFL, you had Al Davis when he was around. Now his son.
Mm.
You always have to have that one villain in every league, and I think that's what Bill Peterson has done, or Bill Edwards, I'm sorry, has done
Yeah.
with the Tampa Bay Rowdies, has kind of filled that void, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I would not want to see the Rowdies leave at all. They're like our rival, and we need that owner in the league, and to
Right.
be a very strong person as well to lead the league forward. Something that makes me really nervous. And again, a lot of media outlets are trying to get big off of this. Sports Illustrated, I mean, they're already big, but there's this media outlet they're called SF Gate. Check them out. And they had a article recently, and they said that up to 5 teams can leave the league, the 12-team league. And if you think about that, that can crush the NASL unless we have some teams trying to come in the league maybe for 2018 or 2017. But what do you feel about this, Mike? 5 teams leaving?
I mean, really, the only one that is actually absolutely confirmed is going to happen is Minnesota United.
Yeah.
They're going to go up and move up to the MLS. It's a wait and see kind of deal with Tampa Bay and the Ottawa Fury. Rumors have been very strong, and a lot of reliable sources have said that they're going to join USL, whether that is for financial reasons or whatnot, or they have bigger plans in the future. Raya OKC and the Fort Lauderdale Strikers have gone on some financial hard times, and that's been reported, which have always stirred some rumors there. And then I think there's a couple other things that you have to throw in there, and that's the Canadian League.
Yeah.
If and when that ever gets up and running, there's always going to be rumors of obviously teams wanting to come in. Chicago is obviously one. The Philadelphia is another one. So, I mean, will the NASL survive if they leave and other teams come in? Yeah, for the short term. Long term, that's not good if teams are continually doing that. Indy 11, I've been following the league since Indy 11 joined in their first season in 2014. And it was said that Oklahoma and Virginia were going to join, and that never happened.
Yeah.
So there's two teams that went away, and then Atlanta came and gone, and so there's been several teams that have come and gone, since just in a short period of time. I don't know. I think, in 10 years from now, I said on Teo Gautier's podcast, NASL Nightcap, towards the beginning of the season, that the NASL will be holding on by a sure thread or extinct in 10 years. I think that's still going to be the case, just the way U.S. soccer and Canadian soccer are moving towards. But I would like to see the same teams stick around for the next 10 years and have the same stable teams stick around for that time, instead of having teams come and go as they please, or jump ship, or go extinct, so to say, or never even get up and running. But I will say that the one thing that the NASL has going for them in a positive light is their talent. I think the talent with the coaches, on the field talent, that is, with the coaches and players, are on par with those of MLS and USL. Any NASL team can beat any MLS team. Any MLS team can beat the other two. USL can beat anyone, and so on and so forth. So on any given day, really. You saw that last year, and you saw that this year. So, that's the one thing that, the NASL does have going for them, and should have going for them here in the next several years.
You brought the question up yourself. Is the NASL better than the USL competition-wise, or no?
I personally, I think they're on par.
Okay.
I know I tweeted earlier this year that, there's no reason why the USL teams can't beat NASL teams, just from what I've seen. I watched Louisville quite a bit this year, watched a couple Bethlehem Steel games, watched a couple of Sacramento games. There's no reason why they can't beat NASL teams, and no reason why NASL teams can beat MLS teams. So I think the talent pool is large, as large as it's ever been. It's only going to continue to grow for U.S. soccer and Canadian soccer. But the talent right now is pretty well even.
But don't you think some NASL fans are like, well, the USL, half of their league is reserve teams and teams, MLS2 teams. Does that hurt competition in the USL, or do you think it makes it better?
The only part that I see that hurts and helps, it hurts, one, because I don't think there's a threat in U.S. soccer culture right now that says to a player or to a coach, in that matter, if you're not performing, then you're going to go down to the reserve team or to our affiliated team.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're performing, then you should be rewarded. There isn't that going on right now, and I think that in some ways does hurt, yes, but at the same time, it does help those players who are late bloomers, or went undrafted, or went to that small D2 school or D3 school that was overlooked, but could make a USL team, really help them develop their talent and really hone in on their skills, and really help them. So, I see some pros and cons to the whole thing.
And also, people view it as a minor league as well because of the reserve teams as well. So I really don't know. If you have a team that you like, then you're going to support that league, right? So I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, and I think that's the other thing that's really hurting U.S. soccer is, like, even though I support Indy 11, like, I'll still watch MLS. I'll still watch USL.
yeah.
I'll still watch any league in the country. If there's a soccer, whether that's high school, college, professional, semi-pro, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't have any hard feelings. Well, sorry, I'm an NASL fan. I believe in pro rel. I'm not going to watch MLS. Like, I'm not that person. I love soccer, and I think anybody who loves soccer should watch soccer of any level, regardless of what league they're in. So to me, it's just about, why don't we just love soccer first? That's the kind of mentality that I have. Like, I'm not going to put myself in a little box and say I can only do these so many things and watch so many of these games because the other ones are just trash or junk. Like, I'm not going to do that. I may disagree with some of the leagues and some of the teams and maybe some of the policies that they do, but I am a love soccer first person rather than against pro rel or against MLS or against lower league teams or what have you. Like, that's just me. I feel like sometimes I'm in the minority when I say that, but that's just me.
So what do you have to say, right, to the MLS supporters that hate the NASL, right? And once the news broke from Sports Illustrated that the league might go under, what do you have to say to those MLS supporters that don't want to support NASL or don't want to support any league or team outside of MLS?
I think my message is that you don't realize how fragile the U.S. soccer culturally, how fragile soccer is in the United States. You just don't realize it. And MLS is a very limited sample size, and they're only going to reward a certain amount of cities, teams.
If you have the money as well.
Right. If you have that money, of course, we talk about $100 million I can never imagine having $100 million to pay to get into a league
and just throw it away.
But Las Vegas is getting ready to pay the the National Hockey League. They're getting ready to pay them $500 million. So wow. So sometimes I kind of like laugh about, we say it's ridiculous, yet all the other leagues having to pay 3 to 5 times more than what MLS teams do. But, you don't realize how fragile the soccer culture is in the United States. And on top of that, you don't, I think, realize how deep the talent pool is in the United States when it comes to soccer. Even though we may not have our best athletes or our best players playing soccer, there's still a large sample size that we can choose from to go play for the U.S. women's national team or the U.S. men's national team. Because at the end of the day, the ultimate goal, regardless if you are a USL fan, an NASL fan, an MLS fan, you like high school over club or club over high school, or you like college, the ultimate goal at the end of the day is that you make these coaches coach the way they do and players make them play the way they do in order to do the ultimate goal, which is support the U.S. national team. It shouldn't be about, getting that Division I scholarship or my team is better than yours or my league is better than yours. The ultimate goal is to help the U.S. national team, whether that be men's or women's. That should be the ultimate goal. And for a lot of countries, it is the ultimate goal, and that's why you're seeing them so successful. That's why you're seeing the German national team so successful and consistent throughout all these years, is because at the end of the day, some players may not produce or play as much for their club team, but when it comes time to put on that national team jersey, they're going to produce because they have to, because they've been told this whole time, this is the ultimate goal and this is why you're here, and so on and so forth.
But the problem is that you're totally right, Mike, but Jurgen Klinsmann really does not look past MLS or abroad for selection for the national team. So maybe it will come, or I'm mistaken there. He picked Miguel Ibarra for a couple of friendlies, right? But he plays
Yeah,
for
I
Club
mean,
Leon
yeah, and
now.
that just,
So
I mean, I look at Bob Bradley when he was coaching the team, and he brought a lot of players in that were based here in the United States, or at least my opinion, whereas Jurgen Klinsmann said, why don't we bring in more players that are abroad, maybe born in the United States, born as a U.S. citizen, but live in a different country. I mean, there's different ways of looking at it.
yeah.
I know Jurgen doesn't always like Jurgen Klinsmann. Jurgen Sumner coached the Indy 11 team. Jurgen Klinsmann coached the U.S. Men's national team. Klinsmann, I don't think he likes the MLS policies, and a lot of times U.S. soccer and MLS are not always on the same page, or not always looking at the same goals, which the ultimate goal should be to supply these players and coaches for the national team, which I don't think is always the case.
But if Jurgen Klinsmann would make a huge statement and just pick players all from the NASL, or some of the players from the NASL except MLS, that would be a massive statement to U.S. soccer. But it would never happen.
Yeah, it absolutely would be. But to a fair extent, though, I go back on what I previously said. There's no threat right now to players and coaches, and so their training regimen and their training styles is not one that has a little bit of fear in it, and that if you don't perform, then here's where you're going to be in the coming weeks. If you do perform, here's what's going to, here's what you can do, or here's what you are capable of doing. So I just, I can see that, because he has made comments of the training regimens in Europe are quite different and more rigorous than the MLS. And I know some players who have made those comments that said, look, I wasn't ready for having soccer as a job, whereas here it was just fun. Now I go to a different country and it's an actual job where it's not life or death, but if I don't perform, then I'm essentially out of a contract and out of a job.
Yeah, I just think MLS, U.S. men's national team, they're so relaxed. You know what I mean? No one cares. Okay, I lose. Okay, I still have a second, third, fourth, fifth chance. But in some countries, that just doesn't happen. Let's move on and move the chat towards Neil Morris. He has his own podcast called the Inverted Podcast, and he had the guy that Rayo Vallecano, he sent over this guy, and this is the guy that he had on the show to do all his dirty work and all that to sort of put the team back on track, right? So tons of things came out in this interview. He tried to right all the wrongs. The wrongs he was trying to say was that the local group, the managing partners, they didn't pay the school from day one. They never paid the school. So this guy had to come and pay the school off, and he had to pay a lot of people off as well. So that was really sad to hear. And then that they didn't market the league as well, because I heard that Rayo Vallecano thought, why do we market anything? You know what I mean? Because in Spain, they just open the gates. They've been there for like hundreds of years and so on, and people just walk through the doors. Also, he said the league is boring. He said the league is boring and it needs to be more competitive. So he sort of threw out some ideas, and the ideas were maybe if you win the championship, maybe you get like $200,000, for example, and if you finish in last place, he said that you might get you may start the season with like -4 points. I don't know how that can even work. I mean, competitive wise, but it would sort of give you a kick up the backside and say, don't finish last. You know what I mean? But
Right.
How do you feel about those comments? And also, he said that him and the partner in Vallecano, they want to stay around for the future, but they really want to know more about the future of the league first.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to listen to the actual podcast, but I will say, though, that first and foremost, you got to feel bad for the Rayo OKC fans, and you have to feel bad for the players who, were probably promised a lot of things, and now all of a sudden reality hits and those things are not promised. And same thing with the fans. I think the league and the local owners have really learned a lesson in you can't get a team up and running in 4 months. I think that was just the biggest, and now you're seeing all this backlash to it, whether it be negative or positive, or sending people over to do all the dirty work from Spain to Oklahoma City. It was a nice concept in theory and abstract, but then once it hit the ground running, it did not go well at all. But the thing is, though, is Rayo OKC is one of the most talented teams we may ever see, or we have seen since the NASL started. They are just unbelievable to watch in what they can do and how they can do it. They're still pushing for a playoff spot. So you got to give credit to the players and to their new coach for really coming into uncharted territory and really an uneasy situation, a difficult situation, and they've been able to succeed in it. So tip of the cap to them. As far as the competition stuff goes, just based off what you just said, John, I think that happens in every league. There's always a competition committee, and they're always looking at things to enhance the game and make it more competitive or make the game shorter. Or if you score so many goals in a game, you get so many points. There's always leagues trying to get an edge to enhance their talent and enhance the competition in order to bring more fans in or to get more publicity on it. So that's just how I see it.
But do you think he's right? Because, if you win the title, it doesn't mean anything. You don't qualify for the CONCACAF Champions League. I wish you were able to, because there's no Pro Rel, so just give the NASL a slot in the CONCACAF Champions League. But besides that, say they don't give us that, maybe you give a team some prize money, because I think the league needs something to say we won and we fought because of this, not just for bragging rights, because that's what it is right now. It's just, okay, we won
Right.
7 titles, but it doesn't mean anything if you just lost every single title. It doesn't make a difference. You're still going to be back in the same league next season. So do you think we need some type of incentive if you do win?
As in terms of being promoted or
No,
relegated,
not Pro
or
Rel, but just
okay.
like staying in the NASL, but you get some type of reward. So say maybe if we get a CONCACAF Champions League slot, that I would be so excited for that one, but it would probably take a couple more years of sort of consistency with teams. But maybe just prize money, for example.
Yeah. I don't. The only way I think an NASL team is going to get a CONCACAF spot is if they win the U.S. Open Cup. But I just think financially, I don't think teams can really compete in the CONCACAF from the NASL. And I'm sure Pro Rel people are just jumping all over on that statement. But I can't see a team like FC Edmonton, for example, travel all the way down to Mexico,
Wow.
back up to Edmonton, from Edmonton all the way to Trinidad Tobago. I can't. So yeah, I do see. There should be some incentive. Yes, I'm sure there is some sort of financial or monetary gains from winning the championship. Whether that be from the league or ticket sales or merchandise, I'm sure there are corporate sales. I'm sure there is. We just don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
You ask fans in Indy about the Indy 11 winning the league, and people like capital TED saying it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it does. It means a lot to a lot of fans and a lot of people here who have always dreamed about having a soccer team here in Indianapolis and have seen those dreams come and go with the change of the wind. I mean, we've had so many pro soccer teams here, and yet my generation hasn't really been able to actually been able to accept it and enjoy it. So, and you talk to fans in Edmonton, I'm sure they say the same thing. We are in the Siberia of soccer up here, and yet we're able to have a winning culture and a winning team, and we made the playoffs. So, I mean, I think there's a difference between fan bases, but I think the ultimate goal is we really don't care. A championship is a championship. It doesn't matter what level. It's still hard to do. And I think a lot of times those people that say, well, they don't get rewarded for it, I don't think they've ever been on an actual championship team and realize how hard it is to win at every level, whether that's amateur, collegiate, semi-pro, or pro.
Yeah, for sure. I remember the Cosmos Championship night. It was like the best night ever, like the best Cosmos match ever. I mean,
Right.
even if they would have lost, it was just a great atmosphere, and it just felt like there was something in the air that's never there at Hofstra anymore. But the last thing that they said about Rayo OKC, he said that the biggest mistake they made was that they were not on the ground for the season. They were probably there for like preseason or whatever, like to announce the team, and then they jetted back off to Spain, and they let the managing partners in Oklahoma run the club into the ground. And he said that's the one problem that he has, that they weren't there for the season. So that's a sad point,
Yeah, and
but
I
yeah,
think we just have to take that with a grain of salt, because that could be he said, she said kind of deal where, the ownership group locally was doing a good job or they weren't doing a good job, but that's just the opinion of Rayo Vallecano and how they see things done in Spain compared to the United States. You know what I mean?
yeah. And also the last thing he said, that they gave out too many tickets for free, and he said that if you want to come in the stadium, and he said it was like maybe over 10 times, if you want to come into the stadium, it's $12 if you want to go into the stadium. $12, okay, guys? So
Yeah.
don't be looking for some free tickets from Oklahoma or Rayo OKC anymore. It's $12. No discounts because they're from Spain. So, but moving on to the last topic, and you sort of brought it up, was the final. It came out today a little bit. It got reported today, but it's been in probably Cosmos supporters' minds for a while. It looks like the Cosmos are going to win the fall season if everything goes according to plan. If not, we still make it to the postseason, to the championship, but we may not host a final or semifinal at all. But if we do win the fall season, and if we do win the semifinal, we have the right to host the championship final. We don't know where we're gonna play it, and I forgot what month it was, but it came out and it said Eric Stover and the Cosmos are trying to figure out where they're gonna play the final. And this was like a couple of months ago, so that really caught me from
Yeah,
surprise.
not to cut you off, but
Yeah.
I think when you came here to Indianapolis for the Cosmos Indy 11 game, I think you mentioned something about, I don't know if the Cosmos have the right to host a championship if they are able to this year at Hofstra. I don't know if that deal is even done yet. And I could be mistaken if you didn't say that. My
I don't
apologies,
remember,
but I
but
remember
okay.
something of that sort came up when you were here in April.
Yeah, but there's some rumors going around that if the Cosmos can't find a place to play, right, then they
Right.
might sell the rights to whoever's in the final with them. So people are saying maybe it could be Indy 11 if you guys make it, because you guys are hosting a semifinal. And today, the NASL announced sort of the dates for the semifinals. So you guys are hosting one. I think it's like a Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m.
Right.
So it can either be the Cosmos are hosting it that night, or if we're not hosting one, it's the next day. So my sort of question to you is, the Cosmos are supposed to be, and it keep like each year they're not living up to this anymore. We're the flagship team. We're the best team in the league. I mean, on the field we are.
Right.
Off the field, we're just not really that anymore. But we're the flagship team and the team that everyone sort of looks up to. Do you think it's right for the Cosmos to sell hosting rights to another team?
Do I think it's right? I think it should be based on if you win, if you're rewarded to host the championship game, you've earned it, and you should do whatever it takes to host the final, whether that be in your stadium that you're renting or your own stadium or a makeshift temporary venue, whether that be a baseball or football stadium, whatever it is, you've earned that right, and you should be able to have that right to host that championship game. I mean, there's been too many people that put in too much blood, sweat, and tears for that game or for that season for it to be sold. I think if I was a player or coach and said, look at everything that I've done, and then we can't host a championship game, that would be a slap in the face to me. It's like, we've worked all this hard. I've motivated my team and players and pushed them to the brink of exhaustion and beyond.
Yeah.
And we've gotten all these points and all these wins, and we've done all these incredible things on the field and in the community, and then we're not allowed to host the championship game, even though we're the best team in the league. I would see it as a slap in the face. Should teams come in and say, well, if you can't host it, we'd like to buy those rights from you. And if that's the case, if I'm the New York Cosmos and say, okay, you could buy it, I would jack that price up so high that I would make that other team suffer if they did agree to it, just because of that.
$1 million, $2 million.
Will the NASL allow that? I don't know. No offense to the people of Edmonton and FC Edmonton, but I have a feeling that if Edmonton ever hosted a championship because they bought the rights from the Cosmos, I think the league headquarters would flip its lid. Here we are wanting to be a perennial league and a serious league in the North American soccer landscape, and we're going to Edmonton out of all places. I think some people at the headquarters of the NASL would flip their lid on that. As rightly so, they should probably hear for Indianapolis if Indianapolis bought those rights, because Indianapolis is not always seen as that premier destination compared to Miami or Los Angeles or New York, so to speak.
But you guys draw the crowds. You guys draw the crowds. No, you get like 9,000, 10,000 each game. So
right.
If you can throw this massive championship match and if you can promote it, you guys have like a week to do it, because once you win the semifinal, it's the following weekend. So you guys have a full week to promote that thing.
I'm just looking more at an outsider's point of view of, would I rather go to Chicago or Indianapolis? So I'd rather go to Chicago. Would I rather go to Buffalo or New York City? I'd rather go to New York City.
We should be the preferred destination, but we don't have the facilities to do that. You know what I mean? But
right.
If we had a place, and maybe we do have a place, and they're not going to announce it until we make it to the final. You know what I mean?
And I think it brings up a legitimate point of some other leagues here in the United States and around the world. Their championship is hosted at a neutral site, and it's based on bids or a national stadium, whereas London has the FA Cup at Wembley Stadium every year, and they have all their premier titles at Wembley Stadium except for the Premier League. Super Bowl has a host city every year. Same thing with the NCAA championships. They have a host city for their sports every year. So I think that would be something serious that the NASL really needs to take into consideration and say, okay, well, a lot of our teams rent their stadiums. Do we put it on and put it out there that let's have all these cities bid for that championship, so to speak, whether it be in our own teams that are already in our league or cities outside of our league that love soccer and crave soccer or have never hosted an event like this before and want to put something on to really catapult them into unmarked territory where they've never been before.
Yeah, and
So,
also U.S. Soccer should, like, that's a great idea, and I've thought about it before, but I don't know where it would be. Like, we need a national stadium. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I see that too, but at the same time,
it's
the
it's
United
not like
States
really
is
important, but I think it's a good issue. No?
it is. It's a good issue, but at the same time, that stadium kind of is out in Los Angeles. At what's it now? The Home Depot Center, I think, is what it's called, or whatever the name is now, where the Galaxy play. I mean, that's kind of like the semi-home games for / national team stadium. But you got to realize that the United States, and even the United States, is so big that I mean, you can't. You're basically cutting off majority of the people. That if you host it all the time on the West Coast, you're cutting off everybody on the East Coast and vice versa.
Yeah.
And then the Midwest and South, I mean, it's, most people, if it's
It would be
hosted in
impossible.
Florida, most people here in Chicago or Indianapolis are not going to travel 1,000 miles there. Or if it's hosted in New York, they're not going to travel 3,000 miles from Los Angeles to get to New York.
Yeah.
So I do see that, yes, but I don't think that's a big issue for the U.S. national teams.
Yeah, so quick, Mike, who do you think's going to win the fall season?
I think the Cosmos are going to win the fall season. I think they pretty much got that the grasp on the fall season. So I think the Cosmos will win the fall.
And who do you have? So it's Cosmos in the first seed. So we would end up playing Minnesota United. These things could change here and there. So far, as it stands today, Indy 11 are going to play and host the semifinal and play FC Edmonton, which that's great. So you don't have to play in the cold and in the snow and everything. And for the first time, the yellow ball was used as well. So it's really cool. And
just to probably pump the brakes there because it could
snow in Indy
in November. It could very well be snowing here. When they Indy 11 hosts the semifinals. So
wow. So we don't want to sell the final to you guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I was the Cosmos, right? Ursel, you want the final? $4 million, okay, man? And he'll be like, oh no, we want to build a stadium. So yeah, man. Who do you think's gonna win the final? And you're probably gonna say Indy 11.
Well, that's a good question. And it depends. Obviously, Indy 11 is playing Jacksonville right now. I don't know the score, but Indy 11 has really struggled on the road. So if they have to go away for the championship, they haven't won a road game since April, late April against Rayo OKC. So, if Indy 11 goes on the road, it's going to be a very tall task. If they're at home, I think it's not a slam dunk, but the odds of Indy 11 winning are much greater. But we'll see because I mean there's so much soccer left to play. There's 5 or 6 games left, and I mean basically I looked at the standings earlier today. Basically 4 through bottom of the table, except for Jacksonville and Puerto Rico. I mean they're basically out of it. But everybody else is still in play. So, I mean, it could be Minnesota right now, but next week it could be Tampa Bay. The following week it could be Rayo OKC. It could be Fort Lauderdale, Miami. I mean, who knows? It could that 4th place team, who knows who it's going to be.
So, Indy 11 fans want to see you guys, of course, win, right? The semifinal. And then you guys want to see the Cosmos, of course, lose, right? So that means that you host the final. That means you would host the final, whoever you'll be playing.
And I think it brings up a good point, though, too, is that I think teams this year compared to last year, You're seeing it now with the top three in Edmonton, New York Cosmos, and Indy 11, is that they have been so good at home and they have that intimidating factor that has played a huge part in their success this year. And I think more than any other season that I've ever seen is that it's so much harder this year to win on the road. It's so much harder to get points on the
Yeah.
road this year, be it travel, more games during the week, competition's better, but teams at home, for some reason, they are so much better
Yeah, they have that home field
in their friendly
advantage.
confines than they are on the road.
Yeah, the Cosmos have that big problem this whole season, and as a
Right.
Cosmos supporter, you would never think that. Like the first away match was against Indy 11, and that's where it all went downhill on the road. So against Indy, against Minnesota, it was just the worst time to be a Cosmos supporter in the month of April. But thank you again, Mike, for coming on the show. Hope to have you on real soon to talk about the NASL and the future of the league. Check out his blog, Twitter, Mike. What is it? At Mike's.
It's at Kearney and Indy.
Yeah. Okay, man. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks for having me.